Let me ask you a very simple question. What would you say is the biggest visual metaphor of Deltarune? By that I mean, what would be the biggest image or scene you could point to and say, this is what Deltarune is about? The first instinct is the soul, the representation of our connection to this game, something that represents life, love, and will. A symbol that we are told is us. Our life is connected to its health. Our will is implanted upon it. And it's the very mirror of our love of this game. However, with our life, someone else's is taken. Someone's will who we violate and disregard by our very presence. A symbol that represents all the best and worst parts of love. Or, another thing you could point to is the very video game elements. Menus, configurations, save points, rules. How this game, this wonderful game that provides us many, many experiences, given a wonderful cast to meet and talk and recruit, all these little freedoms that we get, and how it does not matter. It's still only a video game that has rules, constraints, and laws that it cannot break, and an ending that we are grimly marching towards. But I think we can all agree that, at the very least, a major visual metaphor is the theme of light and dark. The dark world, a place of dreams and fantasy. The light world, a place of hopes and reality. Light and dark, up and down, heaven and hell. The dichotomy of the two and how they are separate but cannot exist without each other. Both adventures, friendships, perils, and the harsh reality of existence. How we want to flee into the dark and fall down a deep, deep pit, and in that pit are those that wish to exist, but can't due to unfair laws making their wants and desires impossible, and how they still fight for them. Deltarune is a game about dichotomies, and how they exist in multiple ways, like with the heart representing love and control. We play this game out of love, but we are denying the freedom of one, yet the two of us cannot exist without each other. We play this game knowing of one ending, and yet we do every single possible thing, and find new and interesting things, and how the game changes depending on certain choices. But then again, the game cannot break the rules of its own coding, unless, of course, something were to change. As well as the dichotomies of light and dark, perhaps the single greatest and foundational representation of this or that, the biggest two-sidesism of any piece of fantasy, and yet, even then, there are exceptions. Things that are neither nor, showing us that things are more complicated than you thought. This game loves to build up dualities and then destroy them. It's a deconstruction and reconstruction, and how it uses them in ways we do not expect. Anyway, here's Woody Toy Story trying to kill himself. Hi, I'm Dante. This is Deltarune, but you already knew that. So, Chapter 5 has been out for like a little over a month now, and I think everyone has gotten the chance to play it, or at least learn of things through cultural osmosis. But now that I'm done digesting the feast of that chapter, I have things I want to say. And if you can guess by the intro, I've been thinking about dichotomies again. What can I say? I love deconstructing dualisms and finding the messy in-betweens, the various themes of this game and how it oscillates between them, sometimes so fast that it causes whiplash. I genuinely could not process the fact that Flowery was going to be the main Dark World boss of this chapter for like a good hour of playing. Everyone was joking like, haha, I can't wait to see Flowey this chapter. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What I'm trying to say is that Deltarune is a game about halves and how it puts them together. There are parts of Deltarune that can only exist because they are halves of each other. The fun adventure, the looming tragedy, the uplifting comedy, and the dreaded horrors, the confusing and unintuitive parts of dialogue, and then the piece that puts it all together. That's what I want to analyze in this video. Deltarune is a funny game. I think we can all agree that it got at least some chuckle out of you for at least a couple of moments. Some jokes are very well constructed, and some jokes are just completely out of pocket and unhinged. I swear, Toby removed all of his filters when writing the Floridans. But really, we all know who the real comedic group of this chapter was.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
The flowers really make this chapter as good as it was. Not only did we get a look into how the souls might have been in Undertale, but also that they're just fucking hilarious. I love the flowers. All of them, genuinely. Especially Flowery, who didn't get a great first impression. I hated Flowery for the first part of Chapter 5, especially since he just smacked me in the face of everything that he is and permanently ruined some of my vocal stems.
Glue! Mysterious wind! I'm falling!
Then, as the chapter progressed, my opinion started to shift. I thought he was an arrogant asshole who only cared about what he wanted. Well, he is still an asshole, but he cares. He cares a lot. I like the other flowers, but when we get to the final ascent, my love of them began to grow. All of them are really a reflection of the 7 human souls. But also they're kind of not. Aqua patiently sits and learns everything she is told, yes, but she also just wants to play and round and do whatever she wants. Orange talks high and mighty about being the most courageous, all behind a paper wall, as she lets a shadow puppet speak for her. Sith is the most active throughout the chapter and will constantly persevere, but they also represent the Joseph Joestar version of perseverance. Green is the kindest out of all of the flowers, but they can also just be petty and hold grudges. Yellow goes about punishing criminals for their crimes, but he can also be very easily tricked. And Blue holds his integrity and makes everything as fair as possible, but he also pretends not to see the wrongness right in front of them and just silently not act when he should. They're all very, very flawed, but flawed in a human way. They're all still very genuine in their beliefs and will stand with each other. And that's what makes them beautiful to me. And the best part of this chapter. Can't wait to see how they will be like in Castletown. Oh, they can. These flowers are the flowers Asgore used to propose to Toriel. They were only supposed to live for its single day, and yet he kept them. Managed to keep them alive for probably 20 years if I had to estimate. But their conditions are very delicate. Only Asgore has managed to keep them alive, and he was kidnapped at the end of the chapter. The future of these flowers are very uncertain. There's a good chance that we will never see them again. This moment, this one chapter, was the only chance they had to live, to love, to be a human. It's tragic, genuinely tragic. And even if they did succeed, Asgore still needs to run the shop. Their dreams couldn't have lasted very long. Just another tragedy to stack onto it. Their short lives were prolonged so much longer because of Asgore, and they wanted nothing more than return the favor, all while spending years seeing people go about their lives, seeing those beings driven by meaning, by emotion, by love. They wanted to know what it was like to be a human, and for a short moment, a short but meaningful moment, they were allowed the chance to exist. A thing about Deltarune is that we are told there is only one ending that has a final tragedy, one that looms over our head. When this game started, we had no idea what it was going to be like, what story was going to be told, only bits and pieces. Then we learn more. A disaster that can happen, secrets being kept, and quiet people pissing us off. There's no good outcome for Chris when Susie finally finds out how much they've been keeping. Rouse only barely managed to get away with it because they were able to actually talk it out. Chris? Will we get an explanation from Chris? Chris Dreamer? Chris Silent Protagonist Dreamer? This character who I have been quietly studying under a microscope for 5 years? Will we actually get some fucking dialogue? Be that as it may, this whole thing started as a fun adventure. We learned about the prophecy, and with each chapter, we got closer and closer to the designated ending, seeing the flaws of each character we love and the painting of a grim ending. I really cannot call Flowery a villain, because he, if anything, is the real hero of the story. All of them are, really. However, Flowery spent the most amount of time pointing out the flaws of two characters in particular, Rouse and Chris. Well, him opposing Rouse was the biggest part of this chapter. Him opposing Chris was a lot more subtle and quiet, but still important. I heard a lot of criticisms of this chapter about not fitting the ending of chapter 4, of beating, a fucking titan. However, this chapter and a character like Flowery needed to happen, going against the fatalism that Rouse has developed. When I finished chapter 4 last year, I was thinking how the hell Toby was going to one-up the titan fight, but he did one-up it by having us defeat the one thing more powerful than a god of destruction, the power of friendship. All of them putting in their all to stop you from sealing their dark fountain. And, I mean, really, why should the Fuck Squad gain priority over who gets to decide what Dark World remains or not? Because they're heroes of the prophecy? The prophecy that at least 2/3 of the hero wishes would not occur? While poking and prodding at Rouse. You're just pretending to be something you're not. Want to tell them what's so bad about that? Talking about how he needs to play his role despite very much not wanting to. I wonder what that's all about. As well as, Chris and everything that is going on with them. But yeah, this game was pointing out a huge flaw of the heroes. The fact that they want to be against the prophecy and still follow through with it. Though, they do have their reasons to do what they do. The Knight wishes to kidnap Asgore. They still have Castletown to look after. And for some people, Castletown is their home. And yet, it's still a critique on how the heroes engage in the prophecy. Still, they carry on. And they do not blame them. This is a test for them. A test of wills, whose dreams are stronger, as they urge them to fight for the impossible.
With your powers combined.
I really oscillated a lot between what I thought the ending of Deltarune was going to be like. Sometimes I would just stare into the void and question if the heroes were doomed as all hell or they would fight against the odds and win. Both endings could be incredibly powerful in their own right. Even if they couldn't fight for the future that they wanted, we still got to meet them and watch over their dreams. Flowery made Susie keep a secret from Chris, which led to her finding the code, undermining their plans. Now that's comedy. That being said, they did keep this to themselves. 2 people have been kidnapped now, one of which is the father of Chris. The very world is at stake, something that Susie had realized, considered, and made a decision to bring more people to the... Susie, now might not be the good time for, Susie, I don't think that's very, has Susie been sleeping in Castledown? Oh no. There's this dread that lingers throughout Deltarune. While we laugh at the jokes, there's this undercurrent of fear. Details are important, and the more you dig, the more roots you find. Things that are never said, that still leave an implication. Points that you're supposed to put together. Of course, there will always be some things that you will miss, or never notice that are important. But only until, after all, it makes holy shit, is that a Burger King foot lettuce? It is my fundamental belief that comedy and horror are two sides of the same coin. They are methods of eliciting a sudden and strong emotional reaction. An emotional reaction that, in some ways, can be indistinguishable from each other. What makes both of them effective is when you manage to build up tension, let it linger, and then give them the punchline, or the jump scare. In order to understand comedy, you need to understand horror. In order to understand horror, you need to understand comedy. And Toby Fox understands comedy. Which begs the question, does he understand horror? I mean, do I have to say it? It's impossible not to talk about the Weird Root. It has become Side B of Deltarune, the Forbidden Path, the Tale of Hell, and really fucking dark, holy shit. The Weird Root contains some of the best writing in the game, writing that only stands out because it's really not something you'd expect this game to go. Like, in Undertale, we have the whole funny haha kill people with hammers route to beat the funny skeleton man, all as a metaphor for the disconnect of in-game violence and the pursuit of completion. Here it's manipulating the childhood friend of your vessel, doing specific and calculated actions to get something new, something that could not be there before, something unexpected but oh so familiar, like a song you heard somewhere before. Some people still consider Chapter 2 to be the funniest chapter of Deltarune, and all the jokes in that chapter still go hard after years of replaying. Nothing tops Queen and her shenanigans. She's goofy and random, but there's a logic to her. A logic that we understand. She's a computer, and in media, we see computer characters as incredibly intelligent, so we had expectations set for her. Expectations that are immediately dunked on at every possibility. And isn't that what a lot of comedy is? The subversion of what we'd expect? Of course, there's also setup, and timing, and delivery. Being told that this is what would happen sounds completely incomprehensible, but at the same time, it's the most natural outcome. And that is what I consider genius comedy. When you set everything up, subvert expectations, but still manage to have it make sense. Anyway, here's a creepypasta route. Of course, with the subversion of expectation, comes the other side of the coin. When Chapter 2 came out, we expected the game to be the fun sequel of the great opening of Chapter 1, which it was. But it also had something else. We didn't have a violence route in Chapter 1, so everyone assumed that there wouldn't be one. And then Chapter 2 arrived. We got incredibly funny moments, our expectations were set, so when you get Noelle in Chapter 2 and realize she had an additional power, things started to play out. You really had to be there when the Weird Root was first found after Chapter 2's release. People genuinely did not believe it was real, and it was just an elaborate hoax. So when Chapter 3 and 4 came out, we had more moments, some subtle, some overt. The scene is uncomfortable as well as its aftermath. While it's not as big as, say, murdering everyone in Hometown, and yet it still carries the same weight. Less violent, but somehow more dreadful. Then we reach Chapter 5, the culmination of it all. I always think people like to pretend that the Weird Route is the only place where a lot of the scary stuff is. It is not. There are a lot of horrors going on, but it's more quiet horrors. The things that tend to get covered up. I mean, it is easy to cover it up, because comedy is a great way of relieving tension. Like, take a look at Chris. Haha, look at our funky little envy. Look at them flirt and dance and do some gremlin behavior. It's so funny. I love this funky little envy. Anyway, here's some implications that they engage in self-harm. Isn't Susie so cool and awesome? Look at her be head over heels over Noelle. Haha, Susie's funny idea coming in clutch once again. Susie idea, haha, hey. Is Castletown really the only place she feels comfortable that she would straight up sleep in the storage closet then go home to her family? Or is she just straight up homeless? Look at this funny bird man blocking the way. Haha, so funny. Whether or not the Hometown butcher murked Onion, the game heavily implies it anyway, which could be the setup for a joke. Haha, did you really think Onion got hunted for sport? That's absurd. Toby Fox would never put anything like that in his game. But also, isn't the idea of Onion getting silenced by the Scaster follower Recolor to prevent us from learning the Song of the Ocean just fucking hilarious? Like, Deltarune still plays it funny most of the time, so the implications just hanging there, just so out of pocket and dark that it's honestly pretty fucking funny. It's funny how that works, when comedy and horror can intermingle in a way that it almost becomes hard to separate. But yeah, Deltarune has a lot going on in the main plot. Like, let's just try to keep track. There's the Weird Route, which combined video game glitches and creepypasta horrors to create a deeply psychological moment. We have the prophecy and how it will end in tragedy and the inevitable roaring that comes with it. Then there's also the mention of the Tale of Hell and the roots, representing something in the shelter, probably the root of all of this since everyone keeps getting kidnapped for sacrifices apparently. We've got the disappearance of Des, the suspiciously Des-shaped night, Rudy fucking dying, Chris's allegiance to the night, Chris's allegiance to the mayor, whatever the fuck's going on with this man, these fucking cat things, the implication that Ram just got torn to shreds like a wild animal, Onion getting butchered, Ralsei being trans, Hatsune Miku is here for some reason, number 15 Burger King foot lettuce. You know, fuck this part of the script. I'm just gonna replay chapter 3. You know, maybe I'm just a freak, but I actually enjoy replaying chapter 3. Apparently that's an unpopular opinion, but maybe I'm just the kind of person it's built for, and that's really what matters to me. Like the collectathon aspect, taking pictures of things and... Oh. So that's what that meant. Deltarune, like I said, is a game with many moving parts, and unlike the maximalist lore dump I just dropped, this game plays it pretty chill, honestly. Sometimes we forget this game is meant to be played by people who want to play an interesting chapter game, and not many people will be analyzing this game to hell and back. But it also does keep those people in mind, which is why there are things like the unused text or the Weird Route. A lot of these things only come to people who are really digging to find them. So, there are things for them to find, but it won't make sense until it does. Deltarune really likes to be as confusing as possible. It likes to show you all the little things, all these hints and pieces and foreshadowings, and just leave it there for you to find and wonder about. This game has been thought of by someone who has been thinking about it since 2011. They've had years to think about this and that and have developed all kinds of ways to foreshadow the plot. What little things hidden behind layers of symbolism, motive, and just wonder. Roots, gallery, holy, nowhere, eggs. Symbols that could just mean anything, and we know that they are important. Maybe not too important, but just important enough to pay attention to. But at any moment, there will be one little thing that will just put all the pieces together. And I think that's my favorite way of doing mysteries. A mystery that will give you everything, all of the little pieces and evidence, and it's just for you to put them together. But you don't have the context for it, so it will linger in the back of your mind before eventually things will start to fall into place. But a lot of the pieces are very esoteric, so we are left with a lot of these little pieces to marinate in the back of your mind, and sometimes that makes us go crazy. I think about this segment every day of my life. Man Country, as well as Mantle, are what I think makes Chapter 3 the most important chapter. Well, the chapter does introduce the main antagonist of the game, but there's these two segments that gives you a lot of information. The game Mantle gives you the sword route, the reminder that RPGs, like the one you are playing, are usually done by getting stronger through violence. You may have tried that, but the forbidden path is revealed with ice magic. Imagine you are someone who's never played Deltarune and 10 years in the future when all the chapters have released and all the major discussion has faded away. You are someone playing this game and found this segment and wondered, hey, Noelle had that ice shock ability. Then there is Man Country. While this is the most obtuse method of finding an egg, there's a good chance that this will also be the first egg some people will find. The entrance is in a place that piques a gamer's natural curiosity. Backtrack, we see a chest. This one light seemingly blocking a useless chest, which leaves people questioning. We go to nowhere. And see, wait, I've seen that before. Backtrack, throw the block. Get the ticket, backtrack, find the red X and... talking to the man, a man whose cryptic speech is designed to confuse you. But you persevere, getting a hint for other locations to find. We have the luxury of a bunch of people going through the game with a fine-tooth comb. Other people will not have that, but it will reward you for paying attention, being curious, and using some good old critical thinking skills. So you backtrack, sell some donuts, take out the trash, leave it by the windowsill, and harvest the wheat. In the meantime, finding all sorts of things and learning from experience. Oh, so that's what we were collecting. It is, admittedly, a little hard to analyze a game like Deltarune, because we never know what to expect of this game. I don't think many people have considered the idea that the weird route would lead to these two drowning themselves in a digital lake to as a fucking speedrun strat. But it makes sense now, doesn't it? It's like this outcome was the only logical progression. Every time I think about the weird route, I think it can't get much darker than this, and then it does. And I'm someone who likes disturbing stuff in my media. You've seen my server blight analysis, right? So like, I guess my question is, how far is Deltarune going to go? That's a question I don't have an answer for. Is this the maximum? Hopefully not. But there are a lot of other things going on in this game. It could just be up to an implication and interpretation that can be read through analysis, understanding of the themes of the game. But also Chapter 5 was said to be one more fun adventure, implying that these next 2 chapters won't be like the ones before. These beautifully tragic flowers might be the end of the Deltarune that we know. Chapter 6 will probably follow through with Rudy's death and Noelle's date, and Chapter 7 is when the final tragedy unveils, and everything this game has been building up to. And there's a good chance that this chapter is going to be, well, darker than the previous one, dark as all hell even. All the little horrors that have been building up, all the confusing parts that made you wonder what it was all about, all of the things will start to make sense, and even if it doesn't, you'll still have time to think about it for yourself. Come to your own realization. You might have had ideas that you considered to be the most obvious ones, but then they turn out to be wrong. You based an idea off of information, and new information comes out, and you realize that you need to reassess things and learn from it. Because on a new assessment, you realize more things, and you realize new things that you've never noticed before, which builds upon your interpretation, which causes you to reanalyze the media, which makes you interpret it more. There will never be one set interpretation through a playthrough, because Deltarune doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's a hodgepodge of multiple ideas. The tragedies that occur in JRPGs, the various styles of comedy and humor, the subtle and intense creepypasta horror, and all the references of other video games that have inspired Deltarune. So, with all that in mind, and I know, it sounds like I'm being a YouTuber, doing a YouTuber thing, but, mind telling me in the comments below what your thoughts are on Deltarune and how far it is going to go? And maybe like and subscribe and hit the bell? Jesus, it actually hurts for me to say that. But yes, here we have it. A video about Deltarune. A Deltarune video essay. An essay about the themes of the game and all the cool things I've noticed. All put together into a neat, edited format, complete in the span of time that I've wanted. All talking about everything I wanted to talk about this game. So why does it feel incomplete? I've talked about everything I wanted to talk about, and yet it still feels like I'm not done. That's the interesting thing about an analysis, though, huh? You can never be sure if you are done. Can you be sure you're ever done? Especially for a game like Deltarune. All the many little secrets and eggs and options and alterations. Every stone it gives for you to turn. And yet, every time I go over every little detail, it still feels like there's something else. Something hidden, but very much noticeable. Something very important, but oh so obfuscated. Comedy, tragedy, horror, mystery. Deltarune is all of these things, but it still feels like there's something else. Something we're all forgetting about. Oh, there you are.